everybody. My name is Richard. I'm the CEO of Baynes, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here today as we talk about the state of design and make specific to South Africa. And for those of you who don't know much about Baynes, I'm not going to do a long introduction about Baynes today, but I'm simply going to say we're an organization who are obsessed with our customers' problems. Because we like to try to solve your problems through digital transformation to help you design and make a better world. That's mostly what almost all of you are involved in. In fact, it's what all of you are involved in, actually. And if you don't have problems to solve, there's probably not much for us to talk about. So that's what we do as an organization. We're coming up for our 9th birthday at the end of March. And we've just been awarded Autodesk's EMEA Emerging Partner of the Year Award. And there's a lot of positivity for us at the moment, specifically relating to what our customers are doing and achieving. But what we wanted to do today was we wanted to take some time to have a look at this overall state of design and make in South Africa. And it's no secret that South Africa is a country, rather, not an organization, but a country rather, that has many challenges. Currently, we're on load shedding stage 2. I expect this to drop dramatically prior to the elections, but it's a challenge. We've all learned to work with it as best as we can, but it's a challenge, and it has deep and expensive impacts into our economy. There's, of course, the Durban water pipeline that has been shut down, and that's causing enormous problems for KwaZulu-Natal, and it's going to take a long time for us to rectify the enormous basic utility requirements of the country. There's our transport system, which is in desperate need of recovery. The rail network, according to many, is on the verge of collapse. Housing, from a housing perspective, rising costs and availability of land are a challenge. And from a manufacturing perspective, so we're not only looking at basic infrastructure, but from a manufacturing perspective, it was quite an eye-opener for me to see that there is marginal change between our manufacturing contribution to GDP between 2019 and 2022, and actually quarter on quarter our contribution of manufacturing for our GDP or towards our GDP is down. And that sets out the challenges that we face, but I think all of us are fairly familiar with what we have to deal with on a daily basis. I want to chat a little bit about the National Infrastructure Development Plan. It was prepared to strengthen the long-range strategic and transformational vision for infrastructure and to drive project delivery from a guidance perspective. The NIP offers the nation guidance in terms of building on the South African Constitution and deepening the National Development Plan's vision for 2030. So this has now changed. Obviously, this is a longer-term view. This takes us through to 2050. So while its vision extends to 2050, the NIP has a strong medium-term view which is expected to drive us forward. The President and the associated ministers have discussed this at length, but with upcoming elections, from my perspective at least, it's expected that this plan will be delayed until the elections are held. Now, there's 2 different phases to this infrastructure plan. The first phase focuses on bulk infrastructure and energy, water, freight transport, and telecommunications. And the second phase looks at a little bit more of a more detailed level at human settlements, municipal electricity, water and sanitation, passenger transport, road infrastructure, education infrastructure, and health infrastructure. Interestingly enough, I know some of you on the webinar today are involved in some of these projects, and for me that's hugely exciting. We deal with some organizations in these particular sectors and spaces of that are related to the plan, but a lot of people are left with wondering, well, how do we even start? Specifically for me, what's interesting is that the National Infrastructure Development Plan is all supported by 3 cross-cutting sections, and digital infrastructure is very, very prominent. as one of those cross-cutting sections. And whilst we see the government undertake a range of measures to improve operational performance, it's my personal belief that not enough is being done to drive the technological agenda by means of the implementation of a BIM mandate, and on the manufacturing side of things, having a look at Industry 4.0. Now, I believe there are a couple of common denominators. So, if we look at road infrastructure, buildings, rail infrastructure, electricity and associated infrastructure, factories and manufacturing, and the actual part creation, I believe there is a common denominator. And what I want to specifically ask the audience now is, what do you think that common denominator is? And if you want to just put your answer in the chat box, I would be greatly pleased to see what you just take a guess. Anyone? Well, I'll make it easy for all of you. A common denominator between all of these projects and products is that they have to be designed and made, which is complex in and of itself. And the way in which things are designed and made has changed dramatically. That's specifically what I'm going to unpack a little bit more today in conjunction with my co-presenter, who I'm going to introduce shortly. As we're going to start by having a look at the global trends. It is my great pleasure to introduce my colleague, and now after the last couple of weeks, I'm going to go so far as to say friend, Tony Abou Jawad, who is the Senior Industry Manager from Autodesk, focusing specifically on the Middle East, Turkey, and Africa. Tony is a passionate engineer and executive dedicated to facilitating organizations in embracing cutting-edge IT concepts. Over the last 2 decades in the engineering technology sector, Tony has held key positions, including Vice President at Cybers and founding partner at Genesis Integration. A proud alumnus from the Imperial College of London, Tony has a master's in aeronautical engineering and a lot more other qualifications that he's probably too shy to talk about. And he currently leads a team at Autodesk who are contributing to the success of some remarkable projects worldwide, such as the Istanbul Grand Airport, Qatar FIFA Stadiums, Abu Dhabi Guggenheim Museum, and the Trojena Ski Village in Saudi Arabia. His expertise lies in leveraging Autodesk's connected BIM authoring tools and platforms to enhance collaboration in design and construction, resulting in significant achievements and awards for his clients. So with that said, I want to hand over, I think I might have just ruined things a little bit, but I'd like to hand over to Tony. We'll be making him a presenter, and Tony, over to you.
Thank you, Richard. So let me, can you make me the presenter? Yeah.
I am doing that as we speak. There we go. Done.
Very good. Great. So, thank you, Richard. It's an honor to be here. Can you hear me? And can you see the screen? Yeah, great. So against the silhouette of, good, excellent. So against the silhouette of the Autodesk logo here is your lovely port of Cape Town. We certainly believe that there is a tremendous potential in and from South Africa. That's something we'd like to encourage to blossom. So earlier you mentioned the word daunting. So let me elaborate. By 2050, it's estimated that there will be 10 billion people sharing our planet. And this is a substantial growth from our current 8 billion. In fact, growth outpaces our current ability to build enough for the additional 2 billion. The volume of what we need to build is staggering. Research shows we need to build an entire New York City every month for the next 40 years. Not only do we need to build new housing, offices, railways, and bridges and power plants, we need to maintain and improve and protect our current built environment. For example, today, there are over $4 trillion worth of assets at risk globally due to climate change. A serious risk, considering 90% of our cities are built by water bodies, meaning flooding and winds and things like that. And then to make things more complex, we in construction create almost a third of all global waste. Some municipalities in the region cite an estimate of 50% global waste on their projects. The built environment in its construction and operation produces 38% of global greenhouse gases. So we own responsibility for what you're seeing on this slide. We own the responsibility for reducing emissions that accelerate adverse weather conditions like droughts, floods, and fires, with all their impact on human well-being and human life. So how do we address the demand of the 2 billion population increase without compromising the needs of the environment and the planet? We need to rethink our approach. We need to rethink our approach to how we design and make things in the future. We need to transform the way we build. Old project outcomes, such as overruns and wastage, should not be the norm. Better project outcomes are all possible. We in this industry are all clever, innovative, and driven people. We can do this. We just need to watch out for a few things. The first of which is the Einstellung effect. And if you leave this webinar with nothing but that word in your mind, I will thank you. The Einstellung effect, not the Einstein effect, is an expert's disposition to always rely on past and familiar solutions. That works well for old problems, and we can call it experience. But new problems require new solutions. As a race, we have a strong familiarity bias. So consider this. I'll show you an example. The wheel, invented 7,500 years ago, found its way into countless applications, even space exploration by the 1970s, as you can see in this picture. Yet for hundreds of years, we carried our heavy suitcases and luggage by hand through train stations and later airports. It wasn't until the 1990s that designers thought to add 2 wheels to suitcases, transforming the way we transport our belongings. And then it took another 2 decades to standardize the 4-wheeled suitcase that we all use today. So this shows how innovation can sometimes stare us in the face for centuries before we use it. In April 2023, Autodesk released their most recent research report, State of Design and Make. Through interviews with thousands of experts, this report identifies the biggest drivers shaping today's business decisions, as well as how leaders around the globe are navigating them for the future. Our key areas of focus were how leaders are staying resilient and relevant in an ever-changing world, how they were attracting, training, and retraining a skilled workforce, and how they were achieving sustainable outcomes. To get these insights, Autodesk partnered with Ipsos, a leader in global research and insights, to survey and interview 2,565 industry leaders, futurists, and experts around the globe. We focused on several industries. These included the architectural, engineering, and construction industry, the design and manufacturing industry, and the media and entertainment industry. These industries are what we call the design and make. Here's what our research uncovered. First, it's good news. Businesses are more resilient now than ever before, even after leaders have faced everything from a pandemic to inflation on a global scale. So what changed during the pandemic? 79% of leaders were surveyed and said, 79% of the 100% of leaders that were surveyed said that the future growth of their company depends on digital tools. Many respondents told us that investing in digital tools has led to many benefits, including cost reductions, increased innovation, and the ability to launch products and services faster. We found that overall, companies plan to invest in several key areas over the coming years, including technology, product and service innovation, and data management and analytics, the foundation for artificial intelligence. At digitally mature companies, the more advanced organizations, investments over the next 3 years were set to increase at higher rates than less digitally mature companies. And not only in technology, but also in areas like product and service innovation. This showed that leaders likely saw a return on investment from their digital investments, as investments are increasing throughout the business. So if we just take a look at the slide here, 74% in technology to deliver project outcomes. That's a planned investment. 73% in product and service innovation, changing your products, adding services to the existing ones that you have to grow and maintain relevance. And then 70% in data management and analytics. We also found that leaders from digitally mature companies are more than likely to be looking for ways to respond to their clients faster, increase existing services, and add new services, as well as expand into new markets. And expanding into new markets is something we see a lot from South Africa. Some of the best engineers, construction managers, and CEOs indeed reside in the Middle East, in America and Canada, South America, even Australia, all South African. Also, more digitally mature companies are outperforming those that are less digitally mature. In future, we expect the gap to grow between the less mature and the more mature. As you can see, it's growing since 2019 and the space is increasing. Business leaders and experts said that they will increase investments in technology, product development, sustainability, talent, and other areas even more over the next 3 years than they did over the past 3 years. And more digitally mature companies are increasing future investments at higher rates than other companies. Of course, having the right team is essential when facing your future challenges. And most of the leaders we interviewed agreed that, more than any other factor, is the top challenge of their companies. It's not a surprise when a massive 72% of leaders told us that the past 3 years have brought more challenges to the workforce than the previous 25 years. Yes, that's even considering changes like the rise of the internet, which happened over the last four decades, mobile phones, and cloud computing. We are still accelerating more in these last 3 years than the last 25. This has impacted businesses in several ways. Half or more of leaders we spoke to said the inability to find the right talent is causing project delays, inhibiting innovation, and hurting their company's ability to meet overall goals. Of course, even when you do everything right, and many people apply for a job, that doesn't mean they're already having the right skills for it. Roughly 2/3 of leaders and experts say that their companies struggle to find employees with the right skills. Many leaders are addressing this with upskilling. In fact, upskilling is one of the broadest areas of agreement in our entire survey. 93% of respondents agree it is important to them. Across industries, business leaders and experts said that access to skilled talent is a top challenge. In fact, many respondents said it was more of a top challenge for their company than any other factor. Luckily, businesses are working hard to bridge the talent gap. In addition to hiring from outside their geographical areas and continuing to make investments in remote work, many companies are investing in training for new and existing employees to ensure that their workers have the skills needed for the company to succeed. Now, on to the final major takeaway from our research: sustainability and how it's viewed by business leaders. Depending on the context, sustainability seems to either be discussed as a financial burden or as a boon for businesses. At Autodesk's annual conference, Autodesk University, for example, a group of industry leaders discussed the challenges and opportunities in decarbonization. They agreed that sustainability could strengthen brands, but also discussed how sustainable products and projects still often carry higher upfront price tags. The key takeaways from that conversation also included the fact that when it comes to sustainability, short-term thinking limits action, and companies are missing opportunities to achieve a potential return on investment through decarbonization. 9 in 10 respondents also said their organization has already made changes to improve sustainability, and 8 out of 10 told us that it was important for their companies to achieve their sustainability goals. Companies are now facing sustainability pressure from all angles, as you can see. Their customers, the investors, and the governments, as well as employees who don't want to work in non-sustainable companies. The bottom line, though, is that sustainability is good for business. Looking ahead, many leaders we spoke to saw sustainability as a revenue driver, and a healthy percentage of companies expect it to account for up to 10% of their revenue. Facing pressure from customers, investors, employees, regulators, etc., companies are taking concrete actions to meet environmental sustainability goals. And business leaders and experts expect these steps to achieve a long-term business payoff, with most saying that sustainability measures will eventually become sources of revenue for their companies. Our key takeaway was this: all these challenges and solutions don't exist in silos. In order to bridge the talent gap, for example, many respondents told us they were attracting employees by being more sustainable. One thing is for certain: by working across all 3 areas, leaders and experts can take charge of their future and prepare their companies for success in an unpredictable world, where the only thing more expensive than action is, I'm sure you all said it, inaction. Let's talk a little about what you can do and what is the call to action. So, digital transformation. We said 79% of leaders say their company's future growth depends on digital tools. And now I'm going to hand over to Richard to take you through the trials and tribulations of digital transformation. Richard, are you ready?
Thank you, Tony. Yeah, so in terms of digital transformation, it's a daunting topic, it's a daunting task. Tony, you know, you've got to stay to be the clicker, though, huh?
Okay, I am going to click. There we go.
This co-presentation from South Africa to Dubai, right? Right. So, what to do next? Look, it's always about technology and people, and I think, you know, what a lot of us have gotten to grips with is the fact that from a technological perspective, we've experienced this incredible growth. You know, Autodesk has been on that journey for 40 odd years or so. Technology is all there, and there's more technology around than what we actually know what to do with specifically. And if we break it down into 4 more practical aspects of what it is that we can do, specifically looking at National Infrastructure Development Plan, for me, the first is about looking at digitization. Now, digitization is like entry level to digital transformation for me. It's so entry to the game. We became digitized when we moved from a paper-based drawing process to CAD. And now I'm going back however many years ago. Sorry, I think I moved my camera. Now I'm going back however many years ago, more years than I care to remember. So here it's about digitizing more of your workflow, having a look at what else can be streamlined, because a lot of our organizations, I think, have become stagnant in terms of how we do things, and everyone's digital transformation journey starts at their own place. So, you know, depending on the size of the organization, depending on the infrastructure that you have and the industry that you're in, you're going to start your journey at a different place. But it is highly, or rather broadly, categorized as a digitization start. Your ability to handle more complex and more high performance projects are what is going to propel you forward in line with the digital infrastructure that's required by the National Infrastructure Development Plan and Industry 4.0. So strong focus on digitization, I think, for me, is the first step. The second step is about having a look at connection. And you know, it was interesting, I think, for a lot of us, COVID caught all of us by surprise, but it was around about the same time that COVID was happening that Autodesk were launching what was, I think, then known as BIM 360, which is now Autodesk Construction Cloud. And you know, what we saw happen very, very quickly by certain organizations, and sure, everyone's company is different. What we saw was a massive shift towards moving projects, documents, document sharing, workflows into models into the cloud. And that has had an ability to connect these teams and these people all over the country and all over the globe. So this move to cloud, you know, I broadly put cloud under this connection space because it's about collaboration across the project lifecycle. We're starting to see some very exciting things with certain municipalities who I'm not going to mention, but we're starting to see some exciting pilot projects that have been kicked off in the last 18 months, where they're looking at putting certain projects in the cloud to collaborate better with their ecosystems. And this, again, is nicely aligned to the National Infrastructure Development Plan, but there's so much more that can be achieved, because what this type of work does is it helps you manage your risk and improve your predictability and certainty in terms of your project delivery. So that's an important place for me that has to be addressed after digitization.
Richard, you're breaking up.
Things that can happen, you know, in terms of congruently, and other things that have to happen sequentially. The next, for those organizations that have already taken a step into their digitization, the internet. Let me turn off my webcam, if that's going to help. I see GoToWebinars telling me turn off your webcam. So, right, is that better?
Yeah, you sound better.
Right. Okay. Can you hear me, Tony?
I can.
Great. Thank you. All right. Turn off the webcam. You all know what I mean. So, in terms of optimizing, the main challenge, I think, for organizations in optimization is that you think that your work in digitizing and connecting is over, but it most definitely is not. Optimizing for me is more around looking at workflows and looking at your broader ecosystem, because you would be amazed how many people we talk to who still make use of antiquated systems for sharing of data and documentation. So email as an example. And look, I unfortunately I love my Outlook, but it's not the right place for a lot of the work that we do. So in terms of optimizing your processes and your workflows with your ecosystem, what this does is it improves your product delivery and it reduces errors. And what that does is it allows you to predict your results better. And this is where I believe that there's work to be done with everybody in terms of workflow engagement. Lastly, it's about evolution. And what's continuously exciting about this particular aspect of digital transformation is that so much has evolved just in the last 10 years from a personal technological perspective. And if I remember what it was like to run my business without having my email on my phone, something as simple as that has changed my life. And now you think about the construction teams who now have the ability to connect their RFIs and their snagging and punching lists and that kind of stuff with their phone on site, sharing it with the team in the office. That evolution is what propels us forward to be able to deliver on things like the National Infrastructure Development Plan and Industry 4.0, because the world has moved forward quite dramatically. And because business models have changed, because we have seen, we see manufacturers now doing a lot more, of the Internet of Things and leasing, and asset ownership is different now. Because everything has changed, we have to change as well. And I suppose what's interesting for us is that we get to see a broad spectrum of organizations across the innovation curve. And I do believe that the pressure is now on those who need to cross the chasm into mainstream digital transformation. And for me, I believe those are the 4 key areas of next steps. So digitize, connect, optimize, and evolve are how we feel you make it practical. So with that said, I'd like to pause for a minute and ask, are there any questions? Who's got a question? You have the brilliant Tony online, and you don't always get that access to that kind of executive easily. There is a general question, which is, why should I do this if nobody else is? And that's a good question, because we tend to go, well, if he's not doing it, why must I do it? I think one of the benefits, rather, of any kind of technological change that is overlooked is the benefit to one's own organization. I remember many, many years ago when I was involved in launching Revit structure specifically, and the benefits that we were seeing individual organizations were receiving from moving to what was then really around collaboration between the architect and the structural engineer were great. The architects who had adopted a BIM-enabled workflow back then saw benefits. Sure, there's learning curves. Sure, it's painful. Those organizations are the organizations who are now in that optimize and evolve stage of digital transformation. And the benefit that they saw in their own silo, and I use, you can't see me because my camera's off, but I use the word silo in parenthesis because the silo implies that you don't get benefit later, but actually when the rest of that ecosystem joined on board, they were the leaders, and they got benefit because they had gone through those changes early. And I think that there's a lot of benefit for your own internal organization first. And if your own organization is your priority, or rather not even your own organization, if your department is your priority or your project is your priority, then that's when you start to see the benefits. So my advice would be look for a pilot project that you can digitally transform using those 4 broad steps. Engage with the right specialists that you feel are relevant to help you, and test out what those results might feel like, because I'm sure you can hear basically have an office on a racetrack, but those benefits are great to achieve internally first. When the ecosystem comes on board, they will double. Who's got any other questions?
Well, I do.
Yes. Oh, hold on. I see a question. What has been done to integrate statutory or municipal processes? Thank you, Lemasia. I'm going to try to answer your question as best as I can, and then maybe I'll ask Tony for some additional input. I can tell you, maybe not specific, I can tell you from a building information modeling perspective in terms of the AEC industry specifically, or the AECO industry, there is work being done to deliver not necessarily a mandate, but a sort of working document in terms of a mandate for BIM, specifically 19650. Tony, I can still see your screen, but I see you've moved 1 or 2 things. So there we go. So the CIDB, which is the Construction Industry Development Board, have been working quite closely with the BIM Community Africa, of which I'm a director, to create a high-level working document in terms of the implementation of building information modeling. You're looking at what other countries have done in the UK and in New Zealand and such like. There are other, on a more municipal level, there is work that we're doing specifically with certain municipalities in terms of integrating to their broader ecosystems. And I'm very excited for what those municipalities are going to deliver in the next probably 9 months to a year. The challenge I think that we have is that, the municipalities tend to be the owner operators in many instances, and a lot of this technological change has to be driven at owner operator level. So Lemasia, if you have someone that you think I should talk to, please feel free to email me afterwards and put that information forward to me, because the people who are leading this change at a municipal level are the municipalities themselves, and the technology is there and it's able to be integrated and developed, but we need them to be at point on that. Does that answer your question?
If I can add to that.
Sure, please.
A couple of things. From a global perspective, we see in places like Singapore, Dubai, for example, that that digitization and BIM mandates are important to municipalities. One area is permitting, so building permits, which have to be issued against designs. In an advanced city like Dubai used to take 2 or 3 years. And since they've implemented their BIM mandate and a bit of code checking, automatic code checking, approvals have gone from 2 to 3 years to a matter of weeks. the steps of refining your designs to make sure that they are compliant take seconds. As in, it's not compliant, try again. It's not compliant, try again till you get it right. So that was the main obstacle. The other point I would like to say with respect to South Africa, and I think Richard, I'm not sure if you're going to mention this, but the BIM Community Africa are putting together workshops that all organizations in the ecosystem, which means the municipalities, the contractors, the consultants, and the architects, all working together to agree on a standard that I'm not sure if that's the one you were alluding to. If you're not involved in BIM Community Africa and this Code South Africa set of workshops, I would encourage that you do get involved so that you can, you can also contribute to making things move faster in your municipality.
Thanks, Tony. That was a good addition, and I see that there's another note from Norman who comments and says, South African municipal clients have certainly not converted to the digital age. Appointment of engineering consultants does not require BIM and cloud in project implementation. We as designers try and explain advantages, but not really with much effect. Not sure how to address this. Maybe Tony can share how government clients will globally. Yeah, Tony, if you go, and then I'll go after you.
I would, it is tough. We are trying to get access to those leaders. The presentation you saw today explained the problems. I'm going to go back here. Remember that problem, the building problem, and we don't have enough resources or people to actually build for the population by 2050. That's a problem that those leaders understand, and they can talk in those terms. The amount of money that's being wasted on not maintaining assets and wasted on construction sites, these are conversations that we would be happy to have with those leadership. So if you can arrange such meetings, they are non-technical, but we can have discussions around these type of topics, which is on everyone's mind. And even this picture right here is on mind for every politician around. And if you think about it, these things are, when you address them with BIM and other sustainability changes, give advantage to the more cleverer leaders of the country. And so we would be very happy to entertain that conversation. And there are 2 or 3 Autodesk full-time employees in South Africa who can accompany Richard to any of these conversations.
Thanks, Tony. And then Norman, I just want to add, you're right. We're really only seeing great progress with one of South Africa's municipalities. It is I think it's a metro municipality. I'm trying to think, I have a list of all the municipalities and I'm trying to remember exactly how many there are. It's a large list, and I think there's 7 metros, and we're really doing a lot of work with only one of them. And I'm excited to see what that municipality is delivering, because I feel like we're going to, when I'm able to showcase that, I can guarantee you we're going to showcase that as much as possible, because we absolutely have to change the way the municipalities are thinking about this, because they are the ones that are held to account on the National Infrastructure Development Plan. And I think that it's a shared problem, but that also means it's a shared solution. So thank you for that engagement, Norman. Also, if there's anything that you'd like to send to me privately, if you want to have a discussion, if you'd like me to meet with anyone, please just let me know. If there's time for maybe one more question or one more comment, and then I'd probably like to wrap everything up. I'll just give it a quick 30 seconds. Right. I think, Tony, you can dismiss your next meeting's reminder. And,
all right, there we go. Sorry about that.
No problem. And let's wrap this up and give everyone some time back. Thank you very much for your engagement. The full Autodesk report, which I must tell you is fascinating. The full Autodesk report is available on the link on the screen. And Amanda, if I could ask you to please put that in the chat box as well. What I think you'll find about the report is some insights that you probably never would have even thought of looking into. I have certainly found that the feedback around talent, like I knew that we had a talent problem for us in South Africa specifically, but it's nice to know that we're not the only ones who are facing this challenge. You know, for us down at the bottom end of Africa, we always tend to think that we're so far behind the world, but actually we most definitely are not. There's also 2 other calls to action that you can make use of, depending on your industry. So if you're in the architecture, engineering, construction, and owner-operator industry, you can complete a BIM assessment. Amanda will put the link to the BIM assessment in the chat box. Mans, if I could maybe just ask you to separate them. So do the state of design and make. They all just seem to have come through in, maybe it's just the way that GoToWebinar is doing that. And then the other is the Industry 4.0 assessment. And that Industry 4.0 assessment is geared more towards your manufacturing process plant type of organization who is wanting to look at moving more towards aligning with what Industry 4.0 is expecting. And, you know, to help everyone on their first step in digital transformation. I think the challenge for all of us is to continue to believe that we have a role to play in driving this agenda, this national agenda of development forward. And there's a lot that can be done. There is digital infrastructure that exists in some interesting places, as well as the fact that there's the technology to support the workflows. It just requires a desire for action, and we'd like to be those people who can help you with that action. So if we just have a look at the last slide, that's for those of you who maybe want to get in touch with us on the social media side of things, our Facebook, our Instagram, our YouTube. There's a lot of information on our YouTube, so please go and subscribe to that.